Hello everyone and welcome to my CS24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Curse of Oak Island. The team finds strong evidence of a pre-Columbus visit to the island. The Curse of Oak Island team was still in Italy for this week's episode, and they found strong evidence of a voyage by sailors close to Templar Knights to the area of Oak Island nearly 100 years before Columbus reached America. Rick Lagina and the guys were in Italy to research the long-held theory that members of the medieval order of Templar Knights hid treasure and ancient Christian relics on Oak Island. The Templars had been a powerful order charged with protecting Christians in the Holy Land, but at the beginning of the 14th century they fell from favor and were persecuted and disbanded. The guys now believe that the Templars transported a quantity of treasure from Jerusalem through Italy, France, and Scotland and finally deposited it on Oak Island long before Christopher Columbus's infamous voyage. Rick and the guys met up with Professor Andrea Parobolante at the American University of Rome, where they learned about the voyages of the Zeno brothers, who many believe traveled to North America in the 1390s. Parobolante, an expert on pre-Columbian voyages to America, explained that Antonio and Niccolo Zeno were two merchant sailors from Venice who sailed up to Scotland and the Faroe Islands in search of trade. Did a 14th century Scottish Templar knight sail to Oak Island? The Zeno brothers then met up with and began working for the Scottish prince, Henry Sinclair, who was known as a Templar Knight sympathizer. Some historians have previously credited Sinclair with traveling to North America with saved Templar treasure. However, Parobolante produced a map created by a Zeno descendant in 1558 which showed the Zeno brothers' voyage. And incredibly, the map shows an edge of Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. The professor also revealed another map from the late 17th century that actually credited Antonio Zeno with discovering Canada. The guys saw this as clear evidence that individuals connected with the Templar Knights could have visited Oak Island in the 14th century. The Oak Island team wasn't finished there, though. They headed to an old Templar church in the town of Viterbo to examine the symbols on the walls. Here, they came across a carving of a cross with 4 dots, similar to the infamous H.O. stone. The H.O. stone, found on Oak Island in the 1920s, was thought to be a marker and was so called because it featured 2 symbols that looked like an H and an O, with a cross and 4 dots in between. Templar Knight expert Gianluca Di Prospero told the guys that the cross with the 4-dot symbol was used by the Knights to indicate ancient relics were placed nearby. Alex Lagina says the H.O. stone could be a Templar marker. Alex had a brainwave when he found a carving on a pillar that read HIC, and was informed that hic means here in Latin. The younger Lagina noted the similarity of the carving to the one on the H.O. stone and speculated that the Oak Island stone may actually read, "Here is Templar treasure." It's a fascinating theory, and definitely one that will have to be further explored. Meanwhile, back on an increasingly rain-soaked Oak Island, winter is rapidly approaching. The Dumas Mining Company finally reached and secured the bottom of the garden shaft. Marty Lagina and Charles Barkhouse traveled 82 feet down to the bottom, where they were both blown away by the excitement of actually getting below ground in the money pit area. Marty said, "The treasure hunt begins now." The morning sun rose over Mahone Bay like a golden coin in a treasure chest, casting a warm light across the windswept shores of Oak Island. For Rick and Marty Lagina, the day began with the familiar crunch of boots on gravel and the low hum of machinery firing up. But there was an unspoken energy in the air, a tension that hinted something extraordinary might be waiting in the soil. The team had been following a hunch for weeks, prompted by anomalies detected in the southeastern section of Lot 5, an area long overshadowed by the legendary money pit. This time the clues were less about buried treasure and more about history itself. History that could shake the foundations of North American exploration narratives. Archaeologist Laird Niven, hunched over a newly dug trench, waved them over with a kind of quiet urgency. "You need to see this," he said. brushing away loose dirt with a trowel. In the pit lay a small, weathered piece of carved stone, its surface etched with faint yet deliberate markings. The design was unlike anything the team had ever seen on the island. "It's not English," Marty said, squatting down for a closer look. "Not French, either. Looks almost Mediterranean." Laird nodded. "The pattern resembles pre-Columbian glyphs, possibly Norse, but there are elements that suggest even older Old World origins. I'll need to have it analyzed, but this could predate Columbus by centuries." Rick, his eyes alight with curiosity, gently picked up the artifact. The stone was heavier than expected, with an almost magnetic pull to it. If this is what it seems, it could mean someone reached Oak Island hundreds of years before Columbus ever sailed west. The team didn't waste time. They called in metal detection expert Gary Drayton, who arrived in his usual enthusiastic whirlwind, sweeping his detector over the site with precision. Within minutes, the device sang out a sharp, clear tone. Gary knelt, digging carefully until his gloved hands revealed a small, ornate bronze object, a brooch, corroded but still gleaming under the dirt. "This ain't colonial, mate," Gary said, his voice brimming with excitement. "This style's way older. I've seen similar pieces in museums tied to medieval trade routes. Whoever dropped this here had connections across the Atlantic long before 1492. The finds kept coming. Beneath a layer of packed clay, they uncovered fragments of pottery with a glaze that Laird recognized as Iberian in style, dating back to the 1300s. A small, curved fragment of wood, possibly from a ship's frame, was also pulled from the trench, preserved by the island's unique soil conditions. Jack Begley arrived with more news. "You're going to want to hear this. We sent a sample from the adjacent soil layer to be carbon dated. Preliminary results say late 14th century. His grin was almost boyish, but the weight of what he was saying was enormous. By mid-afternoon, the evidence was piling up, literally, on the table inside the war room. Doug Crowell, historian and researcher, was already cross-referencing the symbols on the stone with old maritime records. There are theories about Basque, Portuguese, and Norse fishermen exploring the North Atlantic well before Columbus, Doug explained. But this would be tangible proof they reached as far as Oak Island. Alex Lagaina leaned back in his chair, scanning the artifacts laid out before them. If these pieces are legit, then we're not just talking about a treasure hunt anymore. We're talking about rewriting the history of European contact with North America.